everybody you know who's been saying there's way more sex scenes in movies, like everybody you know who says like there's way too much now, like they're lying. They're exaggerating. According to Kate Hagen, only 1.21% of the 148,012 feature-length films released since 2010 contain depictions of sex. That percentage is the lowest since the 1960s. Sex in cinema peaked in the 1990s, the heyday of the erotic thriller, with 1.79% of all films featuring sex scenes. That half-point decline is massive in relative terms, considering almost 4 times as many films have been released in the 2010s as in the 1990s. By the time the 90s were over, simulated sex on the big screen was common and often expected in comedy and thriller PG-13 and R films. If you grew up in any era of American history, you ain't really get much sex ed or instruction. But teen sex in movies and shows of the 80s and 90s definitely weren't helpful either, and many were unrealistic or didn't care about female pleasure. And a lot of these were strictly just for heterosexual couples. In the streaming era, depictions of sex are a lot more inclusive, featuring same-sex couples like in Star's P-Valley. Full frontal male nudity has also become a lot more common. I've never seen so many dicks before on TV. A 2010 study found that 66% of primetime shows had sexual content. As sex scenes have gotten more explicit and nude over the past few decades, the tricks for keeping actors comfortable evolved, including extensive shot lists that must be approved before filming, creative camera angles, pasties, flesh-colored cloth, bouncy balls that keep genitals separate, and athletic cups. There have historically been nudity writers. Business Insider described, "It's not unusual. Include minute details such as exactly which body parts are visible, how much of the body can be seen, and for how long the body part is shown." For actors who refuse to be naked, there are body doubles, non-unionized actors whose body parts are assessed for quality with little credit or payment. But these safeguards and extras aren't enough. Wrote Brina Kerr, "It's easy to forget that their kisses are scripted and scheduled, that a director is standing there asking them to do it, that it's work that can be, even under the best circumstances, uncomfortable and triggering. Pile all that on top of a general cultural awkwardness around the mechanics of sex, and it's clear why sex scenes have been, in general, talked about very little before they're filmed." Emily Meade was one of the first performers to request an intimacy coordinator in the wake of Me Too, a role filled by Alicia Rodas. Said Rodas to Rolling Stone, "With intimate moments, from kissing to intense sex scenes, it's been the practice for directors to just say, whatever you're comfortable with, just go for it. But if you're not giving someone a map or an exit or a voice, just asking actors to roll around and get off on each other, are you asking your actors to do sex work or tell a story with their movement? If your set doesn't have an intimacy coordinator, at best, you might not be able to tell the story you wanted to tell. At worst, you have actors who are being physically assaulted." Rodas and others created Intimacy Directors International in 2016 and, quote, "aim to normalize a set of standards and practices surrounding the execution of sex scenes on stage and on film." As TV shows have gotten more explicit, so have portrayals of teen sex. Euphoria is a prime example of a show that sexualizes teens for a primarily adult audiences. It's the second most watched HBO series of all time after Game of Thrones, and it's directed by Sam Levinson, whose 2023 collaboration The Idol with The Weeknd was nearly universally panned and called sexual torture porn and like a rape fantasy. And chillingly, the show notably featured an intimacy coordinator being locked in a bathroom on the set of a photo shoot during its first episode. Depiction of sex, and especially rape in film and TV, is darkened by the fact that for the majority of the existence of the industry, boundaries and consent have been less than crystal clear. 2004's The Brown Bunny, an independent movie written, directed by, and starring Vincent Gallo. Chloe Sevigny gave Gallo a real, non-simulated blowjob. This caused outrage, especially among the Cannes audience that viewed it. Some wondered if she was pressured into the non-simulated oral sex. Chloe insisted no boundaries were crossed. "It was tough, the toughest thing I've ever done, but Vincent was very sensitized to my needs, very gentle, and we'd been intimate in the past." Wrote Manola Dargis, "Actresses have been asked and even bullied into performing similar acts for filmmakers since the movies began, usually behind closed doors. Miss Sevigny isn't hiding behind anyone's desk. She says her lines with feeling and puts her iconoclasm right out there where everyone can see it. She may be nuts, but she's also unforgettable." But here's Here's the extremely weird part that pisses me off. Vincent Gallo, who wrote this blowjob scene into his script like nobody held a gun to his head and made him write it and film it, is an anti-abortion, anti-drug, anti-pornography, Trump-loving Republican. He's conservative, but he put his dick and orgasm on camera for avant-garde cinema. Oh my God. I understand that some people are turned off by sex scenes when they add nothing to the story, but some people enjoy seeing the scenes even when they don't add to the story, especially in the context of erotic thrillers and historical dramas like Bridgerton. If sex scenes were as bad for the civilian population as people made them out to be, the rate of casual sex among millennials would be higher. However, it's not that simple. Some actresses feel pressured to participate in sex and nudity scenes. How do you feel about sex scenes? Do you like them? Do you hate them? Can you take them or leave them? If you have a favorite, what is it? Let me know in the comments. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you like and subscribe.